There you go. 4-punch, 5-punch, 6-punch combination. Body shot, bang, 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 bang.
Telling him not to counterpunch.
Boom! Will Rackman get up?
Iron. You're going through all the instructions. This is for the championship of the world. I expect a tough, clean fight. Protect yourself at all times. Any questions from the challenger?
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Fight City Podcast, the official podcast of the one and only thefightcity.com. I'm your humble host, Jeff Foose, and today we are here with my own brother, Kevin, to discuss the latest top-ranked card headlined by Shakur Stevenson. How are you doing today, Kevin?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on.
So to kind of just jump into it, this was Shakur Stevenson's last contractual bout with Top Rank, now making Shakur Stevenson a free agent. But before we get to Shakur Stevenson being a free agent and his latest performance, let's take a look at some of the undercard first, as it was riddled with excitement and controversy. To start out here, let's take a look at Shakur Foster versus Robson Conceicao. Despite Foster seemingly dominating the fight and outclassing Conceicao for most of the 12 rounds, the judges awarded the victory to Conceicao. Foster, who was making his third title defense, appeared to control the majority of the fight with his superior boxing skills. However, the scorecards did not reflect his performance, with one judge reportedly having Foster losing 11 rounds going into the 12th. This decision has left the boxing world stunned and has raised questions about the integrity of the judging. Gotta be honest, nothing really new about that regarding boxing. I will note that Jamel Herring tweeted, "Did we miss something with that Foster fight?" And Regis Prograis also tweeted, "I think we just witnessed one of the biggest robberies ever in boxing history. Foster won every round. He literally won every round, and they give it to the other dude. Like, how, bro?" So, Kevin, what was your perspective of Foster's performance?
I think I said this last time I was on the show. If you're trying to get into the sport of boxing, especially when it comes to technical skill and ability, I think this would be a great fight to watch with Foster's performance. He showed defensive prowess, counter ability, and he stayed composed the whole time, even when the fans started to boo the performance because it was kind of lackluster in action. I think even the commentators at one point were commentating about the booing, and I think Timothy Bradley was speaking about how people are mostly into MMA these days and they just want exciting bouts, but they kind of forget that this is boxing. This is you always hear it sometimes as a gentleman's sport. This is more of technical ability. This isn't like swinging for the hills, just nonstop action like a rough and rowdy match. Speaking of the performance between the two of them, though, it was kind of crazy to see Conceicao, how he is like an Energizer bunny, and all the punches he threw, it's crazy to me how many actually didn't land. For Foster to go 12 rounds, making sure this guy, like, it's kind of reminiscent of like an old Floyd Mayweather, just how like just the defense, he was in the zone last night, and for him to lose is kind of crazy. And I think I agree with everyone when this. You try not to use that word robbery all this in boxing because every time someone has a bad night, robbery, but this definitely can be titled a robbery.
Yeah, Foster outlanded Conceicao in total punches, connecting with 109 punches compared to Conseicao's 76. So just taking a look at the punch stats real quick, right? Foster was clearly more accurate. He landed 25.1% of his total punches, 109 out of the 435 thrown, and Conceicao only landed around 10.8% of his punches, 76 out of the 701 thrown. Conceicao was busier, throwing more punches. I mean, obviously, the overall punches thrown, 701 to 435, clearly shows Conseicao's busier, but he was landing in single digits in 10 out of the 12 rounds. And then Foster, though, was significantly more effective with his power punches. He landed 34% of them, while Conseicao's total connect rate was just 11% overall. Foster was landing more punches despite throwing fewer. He was very technical, very skilled in punch placement. Conceicao, busier, less accurate. And then, looking at those judges' scorecards, one judge, Ron McNair, scored the fight 116 to 112 for Foster. The two other judges, Paul Wallace, scored it 115 to 113, in favor of Conceicao. And then I think we're all a little lost. Well, Judge Paul Wallace, not sure what you're looking at, but definitely with Anthony Lundy, 116 to 112 in favor of Conceicao. That's kind of tough.
Crazy.
Yeah, absolutely tough. I'm gutted for Foster. This being his third title defense. Obviously,
He brought the man to tears in the ring, literally tears in the ring.
Right. To know you worked so hard to earn this title, just to have it taken from you with, a stellar performance in terms of numbers wise. Like there was clearly a lot of booing in this whole card, especially with the main event, which we'll get to here in a second. But yeah, like to take the man's belt away from him, even though he was thinking he was up the entire time. His whole team everyone thought he was up the whole time. And then to have the other gentleman's hand raised. I'm not surprised. This is his profession. This is his job, his livelihood. Does he, if he does get the rematch, which is hopefully will be the case, he's basically having to rebuild. Yeah. In the event that he definitely doesn't get that rematch. I mean, Foster himself thought he had won every round and called it, quote, one of the biggest robberies ever in boxing history.
I can't wait to hear Teddy Atlas' take on this because I love when he goes, when he sees something like this, he goes on a tangent. I can't wait to hear what he has to say about this. Not the bout, but the judging of it.
Yeah. I mean, this bout does, for Conceicao himself specifically, it marked his fourth attempt at a world title. Previously, he lost to Oscar Valdez. He did lose to Shakur Stevenson before Shakur bumped up. That bout, they couldn't even fight for the belt, if I'm correct.
Correct.
Yeah, Shakur missed weight, and then Shakur bumped up. That was like his last fight at 130?
Correct. Yep.
And then
he lost the belts on the scale.
Gotcha. And then Conceicao, he drawed with Emmanuel Navarrete. And so I know he said in post-fight interview, he said that this belt was for his daughter because he was getting, this is his fourth attempt, which is great for him. However, he said he won. But of course, in the moment, like you would say that, I'm gutted for Foster. Hopefully, he called for the rematch in his post-bout interview, but hopefully he can get it and he can definitely secure to the judges the win that he rightfully earned. But I guess, pushing forward, because like that judging kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Keyshawn Davis versus Miguel Madueno. Keyshawn Davis continued his unbeaten streak. 25-year-old lightweight prospect from Norfolk, Virginia, faced his toughest test to date in the rugged and relentless Madueno. The bout, which went the full 10 rounds, was a physical affair that showcased Davis's composure and skill against Madueno's aggressive pressure fighting style. All three judges scored the fight 99-91 in favor of Davis, improving his professional record to 11-0 with 7 knockouts. This match proved to be a valuable learning experience for Davis, 2020 Olympic silver medalist, as he was forced to adapt to Madueno's rough tactics and constant forward pressure. The fight featured intense exchanges and some unorthodox moments, including clinches, tackles, and even some post-bell confrontations, highlighting the competitive nature of the contest. That's a very glossy way for the way I wrote it to say, wow, what happened in this matchup? Kevin, what do you think of Davis's performance? Do you think his performance showcased that he's ready for a belt holder specifically?
Being a silver medalist in the Olympics, I want to say he is, but I don't. You know how Lomachenko got introduced to professional boxing when he fought. What was the gentleman's name? It was his second fight and his first loss in the pros. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he had a lot of dirty tactics like you would see in the professional.
It was Salido. Yeah.
Yes, where like Lomachenko kept looking kind of at the ref, is like, are you going to say anything? And he kind of realized, like, I'm in for a long night. Even though he actually, I thought, won that bout, he ended up, losing to Salido. Salido did everything from like low blows to roughing him up in there to even missing weight on the scales. I'm not saying this gentleman did that to Davis, but a lot of rough housing went on in this match, which you can tell made Davis a little uncomfortable. Because at certain points you would see him, when they were clinching, just drop to a knee, and the ref would split them, tell them to stand up. It even got to the point, I believe I forget what round it was, where Davis and him were, doing that forehead to forehead, and Davis pushed his face, and then Miguel tried to retaliate and ended up hitting the ref right in the nose. The ref, you could tell, was distraught. Was like, where did that come from? But for Davis, performance-wise, he looked good. Defensively, was countering a lot. Offensively, was setting up nice combinations when he wasn't, when the roughhousing wasn't going on. But you can tell he was a little uncomfortable with that full head aggression, something that he probably hasn't really seen before.
Yeah, I say at the very beginning, and which was what I was expecting, Davis showcased superior hand speed and balance. Punch placement is a highlight thing for Keyshawn Davis, right? Being able to land punches while avoiding Madueno's attacks. I will say Madueno seems a little bit limited. He's tough, though. A guy, like you said, he was very aggressive, and he's very the tactics and roughhousing. Yeah, that was obvious. Even when Keyshawn would land on him, that guy was still trying to throw back. And I don't know if he was completely there when he was throwing. Davis, obviously, like you say, counter punching, very, very strong counter puncher, kind of like that of Shakur Stevenson. Even when Madueno's advancing, Keyshawn's like sitting there ready to rip an uppercut. Mid-fight adjustments, Davis was pretty impressive. I'd say round 6, really breaking Madueno down at that point, right? Landing combinations, increasing control of the fight. I do want to note Madueno, what he did well. His right hook to the body seemed particularly effective. Scoring points, obviously, but at the same time, it limited Davis's ability to move to that left. Also, Madueno, again, tough guy, heavy-handed. He does have 28 knockouts. And so I don't think Davis did not undercut the, power that Madueno has. It's just you got to be able to land the punches in order to knock a dude out. Madueno, at one point, pushing him with his head. And then obviously attempting it because Davis, was mouthing off something, and then Madueno trying to smack him and then hit the referee at that point. And then Top Rank with a highlight reel of, oh, would you look at that smack on the ref? I will say, it seemed like the ref kind of lost control of this fight a little bit. Especially when he picks up Davis in the 7th round. At one point, it turned into a WWE wrestling match, it looked like. I know performance-wise, Keyshawn did well. He did what he was supposed to do. He got in there with a tougher guy. So it was a pretty good, I'd say, progression for him. He said he's willing to fight anybody that Top Rank puts him in with post-fight. And so he did say at one point, I know WBO lightweight title holder Dennis Baranchik mentioned my name. I'm definitely targeting Baranchik. And I will say Baranchik seems to be getting a lot of attention from people, as well as, and I'll talk about him here in a little bit, William Zepeda from Golden Boy. I don't know if these guys are just looking at Baranchik like he's the weakest. I mean, yeah, I guess on paper, is he the weakest champion out of the top 4 belts? Sure. I feel bad because I feel like they're just underestimating Baranchik's tenacity and his toughness. But Kevin, do you think, besides WBO champion Baranchik, do you see Davis really being ready for, I guess, anyone else? I got a few names in my back pocket that I'm thinking about that aren't champions that I think would be a really good test for him. But some of them are tied up with obligations right now.
I want to say confidently that you could put Keyshawn Davis in the ring with anybody, and he'll do just fine. I mean, even last night, he won against a gentleman that style you think would fit him perfectly, but that rough tenacity that Miguel brought last night kind of showed that Keyshawn probably has some things to work on. I think the biggest thing last night, performance-wise, is when you have somebody like that pressure forward fighter coming at you, I would like to see Keyshawn take more angles on him to really set up the combination punching. It kind of like he was on the bicycle all night, just trying to get some distance from him. I believe, you could put him with, to keep him relevant, George Kambosos. That guy probably wouldn't say no to a fight against Keyshawn Davis. He's already fought. He was the champ at one point. He's fought Devin Haney twice. He just fought Lomachenko. That would be a real good test to see how he fares against somebody that's fought 2 previous champions. That's the one. That's probably the one guy I'd like to see him fight.
Yeah, I kind of feel bad. I forgot that he did stop Zepeda earlier in February of this year, and so maybe I guess I'm holding my reservation because Zepeda is a really good opponent. He stopped him. Gervonta Davis has defeated Zepeda when he was still kind of a prospect at that point. It was a crossroads fight.
You mean for
Oh, why am I saying Zepeda? I'm sorry. I'm going to
Yeah.
talk about him later. Yeah,
Yes.
my apologies. I'm sitting there thinking about the next guy already. Yeah, but Pedraza. So yeah, I guess Keyshawn Davis is, but I guess with my Freudian slip there, there are the other names that are not champions that I think would be a good test for Davis, and this is more of the like, I guess the contender area would be like Raymond Muratalla, but he has a fight against Tevin Farmer on the schedule for July 13th, actually, so this next weekend. So, I think Raymond Muratalla would be a fun bout for Davis. But that's more of I guess, if you are a fan of boxing, which hopefully everyone who's listening is, that would be more of the niche, I guess, audience. Then there's obviously Keyshawn Davis's amateur rival, Andy Cruz. Cruz has a match coming up later this August, though, obviously. And I think maybe promoters are going to marinate that fight a little bit. That way they can talk about the amateur rivalry that the two had. I like Floyd Schofield from Texas. He's 17-0, switch hitter, very strong young kid. But that might be just a later down the road matchup. And then obviously, as you said,
I'm sorry, doesn't that Floyd, what's nickname does he go by? Kid Austin, right?
Yeah, Kid Austin.
I believe they've had beef before.
Oh,
Keyshawn Davis, and yes, I believe I saw it at one point. It was a video of them arguing. Keyshawn basically said that he can get it anytime he wants. I don't know why. I don't know why they have beef, but probably. I do. It was a lot of trainers saying stuff, and then the fighters get involved. But I believe at one point they were trying to get a fight going.
Well, and then my last name was George Kambosos, which I think he's kind of like a gatekeeper at this point. And I love Kambosos. But yeah, I think that would be another good opponent for Keyshawn Davis. Again, just to kind of get ready for that top rank, that top next level. Because like I said earlier, my Freudian slip, regardless, Keyshawn Davis is going to have to stay busy as the top champions are looking to unify. And many top challengers seem to be already busy. If I forgot anyone, please let me know in the comments, listeners. And I apologize for my little Freudian slip there with Pedraza and Zepeda. But regarding Baranchik, Davis is going to have to take a backseat to William Zepeda from Golden Boy. On the DAZN broadcast Saturday night, William Zepeda ran through his opponent, Giovanni Cabrera, in 3 rounds. Post-bout, he called out Baranchik as well. William Zepeda sitting pretty with an unblemished record of 31 wins, no losses, and a whopping 27 knockouts. The kicker, though, he's not just undefeated. He's the top dog in the lightweight division. With the updated rankings, Zepeda is ranked number 1 by all 4 major sanctioning bodies. I also like Zepeda's gumption. He stated post-bout, I want all 4 champions. I've already done my work. It's time for Oscar De La Hoya to do his homework and make those fights happen. Yeah, dude is coming for those bouts, and it's a little bit overdue. Zepeda's kind of slept on. I first caught wind of him when I think I was listening to Chris Algieri speak one day, and so I just kind of Googled Zepeda, and then just was watching a highlight reel of how he just kind of walks forward, throws a lot of punches, and he's a southpaw. He caught Giovanni last night with a good liver shot, and it was beautiful. It was just snuck in behind for 4 extra punches. But if we're looking at the Ring Magazine's rankings, Zepeda is holding strong at number 3. The only 2 fighters ahead of him, again, this is with the Ring Magazine, you've got the WBA champion Gervonta Davis with his perfect 30-0 record and 28 knockouts, and then the IBF title holder, the legendary Vasily Lomachenko, sitting at 18-3 with 12 KOs. But then obviously there's Dennis Baranchik with the WBO ranking. He's ranked number 5 in the Ring Magazine's rankings. And then obviously on May 18th in San Diego, Baranchik outboxed Emmanuel Navarrete over 12 rounds to claim that belt. His record, a solid 19 wins, no losses with 9 knockouts. I will say that the lightweight division is hot right now, and we have 4 champions. Why are we not seeing any unification bouts? I think Gervonta Davis versus Lomachenko will be the most salivating one for everyone. So I see why everyone's calling out Baranchik at the current moment. All I'm saying is this is a good division to see. But Keyshawn Davis did put on a good performance. But I will say he does have to probably sit back, but he should probably stay busy. And we got to get you busier, keep your tools sharp, because one of these days, your name will come up for defense. But right now it's Zepeda's turn, as he is ranked number 1 across all 4 sanctioning bodies. Now on to the final card for the evening. Shakur Stevenson versus Artem Harutyunyan. Shakur Stevenson successfully defended his WBC lightweight championship with the unanimous decision victory over Artem Harutyunyan. The judges scored the bout 119 to 109, 118 to 110, and 116 to 112, all in Stevenson's favor. The fight, while showcasing Stevenson's technical prowess, hand speed, and precise punching, failed to deliver the excitement many fans had hoped for. Stevenson's defensive style and cautious approach led to a one-sided affair that left some spectators unimpressed. Spectators booed throughout the performance, with some even leaving the venue before the fight's conclusion. Throughout the bout, Stevenson maintained control, landing numerous precise punches, particularly to Hartunian's body. However, he was unable to secure a stoppage despite urging from his grandfather and trainer, Wally Moses, to increase his tempo. The fight marked the end of Stevenson's contract to Top Rank, and he aimed to make a significant impact. However, critics labeled his performance as uneventful and challenging to market. Post-fight, Stevenson attributed the lack of excitement to Hartunian's defensive strategy rather than his own approach. The victories improved Stevenson's record, but leaves questions about his marketability and ability to deliver crowd-pleasing performances at the highest level of the sport. Kevin, kind of like our previous bouts, what did you make of Shakur's performance?
As expected as anyone else. I expected him to do the same thing that he does. Usually waits for his opponents to come forward, press the action so he can do what he's best at, pulling back, countering. At the lighter weight classes, you're used to seeing Shakur kind of press the action a little bit. We kind of saw that near the later rounds. But especially southpaw versus orthodox, these things get like – usually when you have that type of matchup, it's slow to begin with. And with Shakur's track record, he usually is a slow fighter. The fight before this against Edwin Santos, that was a very, very unexciting fight, and didn't produce anything for him. And I was expecting him to press a little more in this bout to sell himself, but he stuck with what he knows, and what he knows is he's really good at it, at countering and just waiting for the action to be pressed to him. So unfortunately for him, he did what he was supposed to do, but to be a fan, like favorite to watch, it just doesn't sell. No one likes watching these bouts where it's slow the whole 12 rounds. You could probably switch the channel and watch something else and come back and it's still the same thing.
Yeah, like you said, Shakur, he did what he was supposed to do. You do need to have a little bit of like a flair to the performance in order to gain traction with fans. It is a gladiatorial sport. People, as much as we want everyone to stay healthy and safe in this sport, because unfortunately too many deaths have occurred in the ring. He does not have a crowd-pleasing type of performance, and that's kind of tough, especially now that he's a free agent. I guess looking at it, it's just like kind of marketability. Him being a free agent, he no longer has Top Rank to kind of solely rely on, which is kind of there's the perks of being under the promoter banner, and then as well as being a free agent. But then there's also like you got to put now even more work in, right? I think him being a belt holder does benefit him for the unification factors. I guess in terms of marketability questions, his lack of excitement in the fight raised questions about his ability, for drawing power for just future events. At home in Newark, right? That's his hometown. People will turn out for that he's the name there. But like if he goes to, let's say Philadelphia, right? We can go anywhere in maybe Florida, Texas. Boxing purists will show up, but the average fan, not so much. Evan, what did you think of his maturity inside the ring? Because I also have my thoughts on that, especially when he was kind of being disrespectful to his grandfather.
Your grandfather's your coach your whole career. I guess they're just used to having this type of banter, but like when you see it on television, like when the camera's in the ring and you're watching this go them go through this, where he's back talking his coach. I know it's his grandfather, but still, like you're back talking your coach. It doesn't look well. It doesn't look good. Now the maturity level aspect of like, I know outside or like building up to the fight, I think he kind of knows that he's a boring boxer, but he sells the fact that he's like, I hit and I don't get hit. I don't care what anybody else thinks. I go in the ring, I do my job, and I'm going to go home to my family at the end of the day. Like that maturity level, I can respect that. But when we go to like, you're in the ring during a match, kind of arguing, like back talking your coach / grandfather, that doesn't look well. It doesn't resonate.
Right. His grandfather really was just telling him to pick up the tempo and just get the guy out of there. Right. You got to make a splash if you're going to go free agent. and it's just kind of like looking like he's toying with his food. I know he said post-fight that it's kind of more of Artunian's defensive capabilities, but it's like I think genuinely he could have gotten him out of there.
No, I agree. He even said when I think I forget the commentator that was talking to him post-fight interview. He asked, what did you and your grandfather say in the ring? It was kind of funny. Shakur said, "Oh, I need to go out there. I need to try to get." I believe he said he needed to try to get the knockout because he couldn't leave it in the judge's hands because before his match he saw what happened to Foster, and like his whole corner agreed. We don't want that happening to us. So that's why they pressured him to start picking up the pace. Like, hey, bring it to him then if he's not going to come to you.
Right. Yeah. When you're watching one of your friends on the undercard get screwed like that, yeah, it's just kind of like, yeah, don't leave it to them because they might take it from you as well, right? Especially on the night that you're announcing that, like, yo, I'm free from Top Rank, and then you could have been left with nothing.
Correct.
If you took a loss. I will say there is one potential matchup that is already out there, right? William Zepeda. We mentioned him earlier from Golden Boy. Wants all the champions. He's listed as number 1 across all 4 sanctioning bodies. And Oscar has apparently, within the past 24 hours, has kind of like, hey, yo, Shakur, do you want to make this fight happen with my boy Zepeda over here? And so Oscar De La Hoya said the WBO champion is a relatively easy fight to make. We will pursue that, and then probably down the line, rather than sooner than later, we will go up against Shakur Stevenson, which that would be a good opportunity for Shakur to like go over to Golden Boy real quick, get that one fight out of the way with. I do see maybe Shakur. That's kind of more of that's a trickier bout for Shakur than I think Shakur is realizing. Shakur has already tweeted that he's easy work. Zepeda, he's kind of like if him and Pitbull Cruz were to ever face off against each other, if Zepeda were to bump up against a division, those guys would just be, you just tie their front feet together and just watch them throw hands. I know when he defeated Maxie Hughes, the guy who took a controversial loss to Kambosos, he defeated Maxie Hughes, and Maxie Hughes was asked post-fight, what do you think of William Zepeda versus Shakur Stevenson? And he goes, that would actually be a pretty good matchup because can Shakur handle the tenacity and the forward pressure from William Zepeda, while William Zepeda, for one, has heavy hands, like his KO rate shows for it. And William Zepeda can actually place his punches, even though he's throwing in heavy volume, and he's just constantly walking you down. He's not giving you an opportunity to breathe. And so I think that, I think Shakur is kind of considering, he's a brawler, he just walks forward. But watching his punch placement, I would argue no. And he's also a southpaw. And so that's going to be tricky as well. It's another layer to this conversation. But that is at least one opportunity for Shakur, depending, unless these guys are unifying. Like I know Vasily Lomachenko versus Gervonta Davis is like in the hot news right now. And Lomachenko's not getting any younger. And so the clock is ticking. And Shakur obviously has one of the belts. So like, why aren't we seeing these unification bouts? Like we can make the Keyshawn Davises kind of wait. William Zepeda is next in line. But like we saw Frank Martin take the loss against Gervonta Davis. And now I think it's time for Vasily Lomachenko versus Gervonta. But maybe we can get Shakur versus Gervonta. I actually kind of like that idea. Kevin, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, speaking of that, there is in the rumor mill of the boxing realm, there were some publications that did come out with this news just recently that Lomachenko might sidestep and allow Gervonta Davis to fight Shakur Stevenson, and then Lomachenko will take the winner of that bout in 2025. Now, all three of them, they're the guys that those guys, they can hash it out however they want. Like you said, Lomachenko is not getting any younger. I wouldn't mind if he did take a sidestep and allowed Stevenson and Gervonta Davis to fight, or if Lomachenko just fights Davis and the winner of that fights Shakur Stevenson. It doesn't matter to me, honestly, because those three guys, Davis's name brand, Lomachenko's name brand, those two can definitely sell fights. And I think this would be a good opportunity for Stevenson to fight any of those two.
I mean, for as fans, I think anyone is wanting them to unify, right? Like that's without question. I guess the bigger issue will be, who's willing to be the B side. You guys are, if you're unifying these belts, someone's got to be the A side, someone's got to be the B side. Hopefully they can agree to a 50-50 per split. But then who's going to walk out first? Who's going to walk out second? And then obviously the fight location is going to be a part of those negotiations as well. And so we could also even consider, the promotion. Who are we looking at to promote these events? Co-promoters, like the whole business side gets really messy. I do like the idea. Hopefully, maybe if that rumor mill is possibly true, that'd be kind of awesome, because then at that point he doesn't have to fight as many people. It's like, just go ahead, let them fight it out, and then we can unify, and I can get 3 belts, or I can get 2 more belts on top of my 1 belt, right? Go ahead and let Gervonta Davis and Shakur figure it out, and then I'll just be waiting here, willing to take the winner. That would be, in terms of business, probably his best option. I think Stevenson is the one person who can take out Gervonta Davis, but considering his last performance, I don't know. That one's going to be a little bit tough for me to consider. I do think Stevenson, again, though, is the one guy out of the division to defeat Davis, but it's still it's not going to be an easy night for him, right? That is kind of exciting. Fingers crossed.
That's like going back to Deontay Wilder. He has that God-gifted power, and just like Gervonta Davis has God-gifted power, but you have to avoid that for 12 rounds. I think Shakur can do that, but we'll only know if we actually see the fight.
Right. This is all, again, part of the rumor mill.
All speculation.
But unless papers are signed and then we see it, I'm not going to believe it until they're in the ring and that bell has already gone off, right? But hopefully, I mean, again, the division is hot. So we have contenders waiting over here who are chomping at the bit to get their opportunity for a belt. And then we also have 4 champions that are very possible to unify. And we're getting closer to that possibly happening here within the next year, within the next 6 months. In other news, the super flyweight division saw a unification bout between Fernando Martinez and Kazuto Ioka. Fernando Martinez scored a controversial unanimous decision victory over Kazuto Ioka in their super flyweight unification bout on July 7th in Tokyo. The Argentine fighter unified the IBF and WBA titles, though the scorecards were widely criticized as overly wide, particularly the 120 to 108 card in Martinez's favor. So clearly this weekend was upset city as well as robbery weekend. Despite the controversy, Martinez's win has shaken up the super flyweight division and potentially paved the way for an exciting showdown between the Ring Magazine super flyweight world champion and WBC champion Jesse Bam Rodriguez. This matchup is now the next logical step for both fighters, as it would lead to further unification in the 115-pound weight class. Rodriguez, who recently defeated Juan Francisco Estrada to claim the WBC title, is now in a prime position to face Martinez for a 3-belt unification bout. Boxing fans and pundits are hoping this clash comes to fruition, as it could set up an undisputed championship fight in the near future. However, there is that potential hurdle in making the Martinez-Rodriguez fight. Estrada might pursue a rematch with Rodriguez, potentially delaying the unification bout. And we're all eager to see Martinez and Rodriguez square off, hoping that no obstacles will prevent this exciting matchup. As for Kazuto Ioka, he has already made history as Japan's first boxer to win titles in 4 weight divisions. However, his quest for further glory was thwarted in December 2022 when he fought to a 12-round draw against Joshua Franco. Fun fact, had Joshua Franco or had Kazuto Ioka won against Martinez, Joshua Franco is actually the older brother to Jesse Bam Rodriguez. And so that would have just been an interesting kind of like you would have seen that narrative played throughout unification bout between those two. But a victory in that bout against Joshua Franco would have allowed Ioka to unify the WBA and WBO title belts, marking a decade since his reign as the unified WBA, WBC strawweight champion. But Ioka has previously hinted in 2024 being his final year in the sport. He's won titles at strawweight, junior flyweight, and junior bantamweight in a Hall of Fame worthy career. So if that is kind of true, Ioka decides to step away from the sport and retire. He has nothing to be ashamed about. He's a kind of a shoo-in for the Hall of Fame. With all of that news for this hot weekend for boxing, thank you again, Kevin, for joining us on this episode of the Weekend That Was series. Greatly appreciate your insight.
Thanks for having me. I can't wait to come back on next time.
Hey everyone, it's Jeff here. If you like today's episode, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out all of our other content on thefightcity.com. The website link can be found in our show notes. Till next time.